Hello everyone and welcome back. Today what the fuck? This ain't accurate at all. Back out. Today while I'm in the middle of finishing up something I plan to do with 2K, as you can see there, that roster. Today we are going to finally go over the trade deadline. I know I'm a little late on that, but sometimes you just fall short on getting this stuff on time. So while I try to find a competent roster here, well, the fuck was the point of making this roster? I literally could just whatever. Anyways, we're gonna go from first trade on the list of things all the way down. So the very first one, the last one, I guess, to technically be completed at the trade deadline, we have the Orlando Magic, who are officially embracing the tank, shipping Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets for Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and future first-round picks, which has yet to be specified what those picks are. An update doesn't necessarily make it good. Perfect, that's who I needed. Anyways, I know that Gary Clark was also included in the deal, but that wasn't the main crux of why it happened. So obviously Gary Harris really wasn't working out with Denver. He had been their starting two guard for quite a while, and other than defense, his offensive production had been on the decline for a very long time. For whatever reason that may be, I really don't honestly know, but he's slowly become more and more of a liability as time goes on, and ultimately it was just time to move on from him. On top of that, Denver needed a power forward. I know that JaMychal Green has been as close to a replacement for Jeremy Grant as they could possibly get, but the reality is, with Paul Millsap aging and JaMychal Green only being able to replace so much, they needed more, and they're definitely getting that with Aaron Gordon. Now, with that said, I'm not going to say that either team won or lost this trade, because they both got what they wanted. Orlando got future picks and a rebuild, and Denver got the center they need. So we'll know later down the road if who won and who didn't. Now that is just disrespectful. I know Dwight Howard was younger, but you're going to tell me that Dwight Howard was better than Kobe? Oh, some people, I tell ya. What the hell is the team I'm looking for? There. What the fuck? Okay. They didn't really do that much, but Wayne Ellington is one more player than they already had, so I guess we'll figure that out later. Anyways, moving on to the next one, the one that easily affected me the most. Victor Oladipo's going to Miami. In exchange for Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and a 2022 draft pick swap. Now, I know I said, we're not going to know who the winners and losers are for trades for a while, and I'm still going to hold true to that for this because there is a possibility that Victor Oladipo doesn't pan out, and there's a possibility that that pick ends up being in Houston's favor and that they end up panning out. So this all could end up coming back to bite Miami in the ass, but I will say that Houston definitely had better offers for Victor Oladipo from teams that wouldn't have even been able to keep him around because Victor's made it pretty clear that he wants to go to play for the Heat. So they could have robbed somebody blind who wouldn't have even been able to keep him long term. And they had better offers from the Heat even. And they kept sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it, hoping and praying that they were gonna get that guy that they want, and it didn't happen. So now, like I said, they very well could still win this trade, but just overall, as far as the deadline goes, they lost because there was definitely better compensation they could have gotten for Victor Oladipo than Olynyk, who was on his way out the door from Miami anyways. And Avery Bradley, who we just have not been able to... I'm in the wrong one. Who we weren't going to ultimately end up keeping anyways. More than likely because his role is becoming less and less needed over time. So, good trade for Miami. Houston, you had better offers, but it's not like you're completely screwed yet. And I'm going to have to fuck with this because as somebody who has watched Heat games, I know his perimeter defense was better. And we'll deal with that later. Celtics bring in Evan Fournier in a deal with the Magic. Jeff in exchange for 2 future second-round picks, and Jeff Teague, who is not going to stay with Orlando. I mean, those future seconds, if Orlando can draft well, which they've... Here's the thing with Orlando. Orlando has always managed to draft well. Recently, their problem is that the players they draft ultimately don't really reach their full potential until after they leave. it's an unfortunate curse to have, because for a team that drafts as well as they do, you'd like to think that at least some of their players would pan out. With that said, does Evan Fournier fix anything that Boston needs? Not really. I guess he adds guard depth, but other than that, I mean, he really doesn't do much for them. With that said, Fournier for 2 future seconds basically is pennies on the dollar, so I'm not really going to argue with that trade. The Dallas Mavericks acquired J.J. Redick and Nico Melli in exchange for James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, 2021 second round pick, and cash considerations. So obviously when they traded for Eric Bledsoe, it was very clear that one of their guards was going to have to go, and there had been rumors that it was going to be Lonzo. And it's fun to rip on Lonzo, it really is, but he's by no means a bad player. So, matter of fact, I almost would have traded Bledsoe before I would have traded Lonzo. So, good on New Orleans for not being complete dumb fucks. With that said, James Johnson probably isn't going to do much for him. West definitely isn't going to do anything for him. So, trading Nico Melli and J.J. Redick for a second rounder and cash considerations, you might have been able to squeeze a little more value out of him, but whatever. The Clippers get Rajon Rondo, and the Hawks get Lou Will, 2023 second round pick from the Clippers via Portland, and a 2027 second round pick, as well as cash considerations. So, I think the obvious explanation of this is, is the fact that the Clippers have needed a playmaker for a while to kind of alleviate that issue with playmaking that they have. Because Pat Bev is a nice defensive player and all, but he ain't much of a playmaker. And even though Rondo's been struggling this year, as he does pretty much every year during the regular season, for whatever reason, he always shows up in the postseason. And obviously there is no guarantee that that happens, but you just hope it does. And on top of that, one of the big issues they had last year in the playoffs is, they had 2 high volume scoring bench players that were taking up large chunks of their minutes that were also defensive liabilities. And that was ultimately their downfall, because they would hunt down matchups where Lou Will would be on Jamal Murray or Montrezl Harrell would be on Jokic, and it screwed him over because for whatever reason Doc Rivers was playing Harrell in the closing minutes over Zubac, and he was playing Lou Will over Pat Bev or Marcus Morris, and it's like, they're nice bench scoring units to have, but you don't play your high volume bench scoring units in the fourth. You turn to your best lineup, and their best lineup was their starting lineup. So they tried to outsmart the NBA by bringing in their bench scoring, and it bit them in the ass. And now both of their high volume bench scorers are gone. So I don't know if that necessarily makes the Clippers better, but at least they solved a need of theirs. Nuggets get JaVale McGee. Cavaliers get Isaiah Hartenstein and 2 future seconds. So Hartenstein was technically the backup center to Jokic, and he's not a good backup center, at least by NBA standards. So JaVale McGee is. He's a very, very good rim protector, a rim runner. So you're getting kind of everything you need off a bench big man to one of the greatest offensive centers in NBA history, especially in regards to the playmaking department. And they didn't give up a whole lot for him. Not to mention Cleveland has been known to be subpar in the drafting department. So do not be surprised if those future seconds don't work out for them. The Bulls get Daniel Tice, Javonte Green, Troy Brown Jr. The Celtics get Luke Cornett and Mo Wagner. Wizards get Gadford and Hutchinson. So the Celtics, I'm confused why they would have even wanted to be in this trade to begin with, unless they think they're getting Andre Drummond, because Tice was a good enough backup to Tristan Thompson, or maybe they were starting him. I don't remember right off the top of my head because I'm not a Celtics fan. I don't follow them sacrilegiously. But okay, so he was their primary starter. Well, he shouldn't have been. They should have been starting Thompson, but whatever. And all they're getting back out of this is Cornett and Wagner. I don't know. The Wizards, given the direction they're going in, they got Gafford and Hutchison. Both will be good enough for them. The Bulls get 2 of the better players out of the deal. That doesn't necessarily mean they won the deadline, or won that trade even. But I mean, good on them for at least getting the better talent out of the deal, I guess. Warriors trade. So the Warriors get a 2025 second round pick from the Hornets that's top 55 protected. So more than likely they're not going to actually get the 2025 second round pick. They'll get the 2026 second round pick because the Hornets are not going to be good enough where their second round pick is going to be 56 or lower. The Hornets get Brad Wanamaker, 2020 second round pick, and cash considerations. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know why this trade was fucking made. I genuinely have no idea why this trade was made, so that's all I really gotta say about that. Kings get Terrence Davis. Raptors get 2021 second round pick. Terrence Davis, solid defensive player, could help bolster the Kings in that regard. Raptors have been known to be sneaky good with their draft picks, so solid compensation for Terrence Davis, I guess. Jazz get Matt Thomas, and the Raptors get a future second rounder. Matt Thomas is actually a very, very good three-point specialist. Now, I know this current NBA is all about versatility and being able to do a lot of things, at least acceptable. But the one thing that Matt Thomas specializes in, he's actually probably one of the best players in the league at. You know, if you remove Curry, Harden, and Klay Thompson, in all honesty, Matt Thomas is right up there. But, with that said, there is also no chance in hell even a team like Toronto that isn't doing all that well this year that Matt Thomas was going to ever get significant minutes on that team. Spurs get Marquise Chris and cash considerations. Warriors get draft rights to, I don't know how to pronounce that name. So that player, I'm guessing, is an overseas contract. The Warriors have a very good development program and have even managed to get Andrew Wiggins, who many NBA fans gave up on, to be a solid starter for the team. So good on them. Maybe this overseas player will work out for him. Spurs, Marquise Chris is a solid rim runner, and that's really about it. So they pretty much did this trade for the cash, and that's fine. Kings get DeLon Wright. Pistons get Corey Joseph, 2021 second round pick, 2024 second round pick. DeLon Wright is a solid backup guard. Corey Joseph is also a solid backup guard. And 2 second round picks for this not bad Detroit. Heat get Bielitsa. Kings get Mo Harkless and Chris Silva. So most people don't know a lot about Chris Silva, and that's fine because he's a G League talent anyways, or at least he was last year. This year he made the main roster, but wasn't really in the rotation. So in a nutshell, what he is, he's an undersized center that is a really good rim protector given the lack of playing time he gets. And then he's shown flashes of being able to shoot the ball really well. So you're essentially getting a 3-and-D player at the 5 with him. And then Mo Harkless obviously just hasn't done very much for us, so we got a stretch 4, which ultimately allowed us to dump Kelly Olynyk, which will give more minutes to why am I drawing a blank here? rookie we drafted. I should know this, but I'm choking in the middle of a goddamn video. Precious Achiuwa, for fuck's sake. It'll be able to give us more minutes to Achiuwa, which will hopefully help further develop his game. And in the meantime, we've also got Bielitsa, who is a solid stretch forward, and more than likely he'll be our starter. Sixers get George Hill and Ignas. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. Knicks get Terrence Ferguson, Vincent Poirier. The rights to Amir, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name either. 2021 second round pick, 2024 second round pick, which is protected 31 through 55. And the Thunder get Austin Rivers, Tony Bradley, and a 2025 second round pick and a 2026 second round pick. So, Sixers get more 3-point shooting, which is what they need because their starting point guard, while he can do everything else at an elite level, still isn't really shooting. And he might never shoot. Knicks get some solid bench depth and some more picks. And Austin Rivers is a serviceable backup at the point guard, and Tony Bradley is a good rebounder. And then they also got more picks to add on to the ass load of draft picks that they already have. Blazers get Norman Powell. Raptors get Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood, in theory, should be a good 3-and-D wing. In reality, the last 2 to 3 seasons, he's sucked ass. Gary Trent Jr. was having a very good year. Norman Powell was also having a good year, but for reasons the Raptors kind of needed to move on from him because he was going to want to get paid this offseason. If I was Portland personally, I would have kept Gary Trent Jr. and maybe waived Rodney Hood if you really needed to move on from him that bad, because Norman Powell in the short term might be better than Gary Trent Jr., but in the long term, Gary Trent is substantially younger and more than likely at some point will be better than Norman Powell. But either way, Powell's a good enough backup guard for McCollum that they'll be fine. And the last deadline trade, because everything else that was even remotely noteworthy I had covered in separate videos. The Bulls get Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu. The Magic get Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and 2 future firsts. So, most Bulls fans that are not child fuckers love this trade because they're tired of being mediocre to complete dog shit. Now, Wendell Carter is a very good defensive center and an okay offensive center. But he is not, and he may never be, Nikola Vucevic. On top of that, Otto Porter Jr. really hasn't done much for them anyways, and Orlando officially embracing the rebuild wanted a young center that they could start with as well as more picks, and the Bulls were just tired of being ass. So they brought in a all-star center and a solid backup wing. Will it work out? At least in the short term, more than likely. In the long term, we'll see. Anyway, so that's gonna do it for this video. As always, like and share if you enjoy this content, and peace.